Well, hello, good afternoon.
Hello.
Hello.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, everyone. So please, let's do a quick introduction from the people that are going to be speakers here in the session.
Absolutely. So thank you all for joining us in this session. We are extremely excited to co-present with between Lumen and Microsoft, the exciting innovation that we are bringing together to bring the threats that are being seen by Lumen and transforming what Sentinel can do for the SOC analysts. I'm joined here together with Ankur Arora, who's the Principal Group Product Manager at Microsoft. Myself, I'm the Senior Director of Product Management. I manage all of the managed network security services at Lumen Technologies. I have Craig Diabrio, who's the Senior Director of Product Management, manages all of our professional security services at Lumen Technologies, and Andre Gill, who is the Director and Industry Advisor for the Telco and Media Gaming Group at Microsoft. Yeah, so excited and looking forward to this great talk.
Excellent, thank you. So we are going to do a quick introduction explaining what we are doing here. So Lumen and Microsoft, we are leading a profound transformation in the way that we are delivering services, basically to our customers and our market. Okay, what you are going to see here is not just a project, it's not just a small initiative, it's a very big fundamental step towards the transformation that we are living and how we are delivering higher value basically to our customers and market, okay? This transformation is based on culture from the people, culture from the companies, it's based on technology and innovation, and it's also based on a strong partnership that we are having with Lumen, that we have been constructing for years, that is deep, resilient, and that is strong in the way that we are delivering things. So we are really excited because connectivity and networking are really, really appealing right now. The market is demanding connectivity. We all acknowledge how important this is for all the companies and for all the industries. And this is not a simple connectivity, this simple service connectivity. It's rather complex, robust, complete service that is allowing us to transform the data into AI solutions. That is allowing us to convert and integrate the different branches, the different people, locations, applications, agents that are dispersed throughout the country to a large geography. And that is allowing us to connect all the edge architecture that we are having in different locations, okay? But the most important thing when you think about the connectivity, the most important feature and characteristic that you're expecting is that this connectivity is built on a secure way, okay, with secure services. And this is what we are doing basically right now. This is the foundation that we are constructing in this moment, okay? So basically, what we are trying to do here is what we're having here is an inflection point of technology that is coming together from the security, from the AI, from the edge point of view. We are having here a telco that is Lumen, that is transforming, that is not only a telco anymore, that is a technology service provider that is becoming and delivering new services in the B2B and the B2C. And we're finally having a joint approach on how we can deliver new services, the capabilities for delivering all these new services, and to add value to all the service ubiquity that we are having on the demand, okay? So I'm really excited. I'm totally excited for the transformation and what we are witnessing here, the transformation that we are seeing. And well, this is just the beginning of all this relationship, and let's start. So please welcome Ankur right now to start working.
Thank you so much, Andre. Thank you for being here, everyone. See, we really understand the pressure that is there on a SOC today. Pressure in this current age of AI. There are some very important statistics that we want to call out from all our research. The amount of data today is overwhelming. And trying to make sense of that data with the limited resources we have is like finding a needle in a haystack. And that haystack is going bigger and bigger and bigger. 250% increase in data volume annually. We also realize that organizations have been through a journey where there have been a lot of band-aids. I have a cut over here, I put a Band-Aid. I have a cut over there, I put a Band-Aid. I have a wound, I go ahead to the doctor, get a stitching done. 80+ security solutions. That is what we see in an average enterprise today. And guess what? trying to go ahead and make these solutions integrate with each other, finding people who are going to go ahead and manage version controls from one integration to another integration, we know that's a nightmare. Interestingly, it takes about an hour and 12 minutes today, slightly over an hour is what we say, for someone to initiate a phishing attack and actually get access to private data. That's really a medium time for an attacker these days. And as we speak to SOC analysts, what we have figured out is 90% of them essentially say that when it comes to advanced analytics, from a security perspective, there are a lot of gaps. I mean, if you speak to someone in the banking sector and you talk about advanced analytics, they're like, yep, the entire industry is going ahead and addressing our needs. Not in the cybersecurity space, unfortunately. And last, but probably the most important aspect, and this is why I refer it to the current age of AI, we have observed that over 67% of attacks that happen today, they leverage AI. So the bad actors have access to a bunch of things where we feel the defenders need to be empowered completely differently. And this is where we think about how security has been reborn in this era of AI. This is not how we would have approached this equation even 18 months back. That has been the velocity of change when it comes to cybersecurity. So think about our ability to go ahead and process about 100 trillion signals every single day. And then correlate those signals across an entire portfolio of solutions that help with threat protection, data security, endpoint management, access management, and a security platform. Now, the power of AI is embedded across this whole layer. And if we were to go ahead and double click on what this AI-first end-to-end security platform looks like, this is a little complicated. Let me simplify this. Think of this as 4 planes. The first plane is the data plane. This is one open and fabric-powered lake that we refer to, which is unified, queryable, and optimized for security analytics and AI. Now, I refer to all security data. So think of data coming in from your implementation of Defender, Entra, Intune, Purview, and those 80 plus other security applications that you might have. That is why we call this as that one single security data lake. Now, all this is the hot tier. What's working on this hot tier and layered over it is essentially the Sentinel SIEM capabilities that customers love. So think of hunting, think of detections, think of investigations, case management, SOAR, threat intelligence services, UEBA, Content Hub, et cetera. Right? All of this is essentially the data plane, as we refer to. Now, all the data in this data plane is leveraged by the next layer. Think of it as the knowledge layer. What we really mean is think relationships, think reasoning, think context across the security data plane. And this is really built for correlation, causality, and threat intelligence. Now, we have another observation, and that observation is when we think of defenders, we see defenders trying to defend in lists. But when we look at the bad actors, they actually hunt in graphs. So how do we go ahead and equip our defenders with graphs? Now, what is a graph, right? Many definitions out there. I'm going to use a simple, very simple language. Think of it as a weekend language. It's almost the weekend. A graph is nothing but a map of relationships. There are nodes, right? And these nodes, think of them as things. There are edges, which are relationships. There are hops, which are steps between them. And then there's a very important concept from a security perspective called traversal, which is essentially how you would explore these connections. And GQL is a standard query language, right? So this is what we refer to as graph. Now, when we think about graph in terms of security, the Sentinel graph is very purpose-built, keeping cybersecurity in mind. It offers very specialized traversal algorithms for attack path analysis, for predictions of attacks, and for choke point details, etc. Now, all of this is out of the box, which means you do not have to invest in terms of creating these traversal algorithms, which can be a very, very costly and daunting process. And all of these capabilities are essentially an API call away. Let's use an example. So there is this whole concept of a multi-source BFS. BFS stands for breadth first search. This is essentially the traversal algorithm that is used today for attack path analysis. It's available out of the box. Now, I did mention multi-source. And the reason why this is more important in the cybersecurity context is our attackers often strike from multiple unrelated sources simultaneously. So it's not just having BFS as a claim. It is the whole concept of multi-source BFS from the perspective of cybersecurity. That is what becomes important. So anyways, this is the knowledge plane that we think of. Now, how do you leverage the data plane and the knowledge plane? And this is where the tools plane comes in. Now, when we think of tools plane, think of semantic search. Think of query and analysis across both the tabular and the graph modalities. Think of embedding data. This is where it resides. That is what makes your agents more powerful eventually. All of this being accessed through the whole concept of Model Context Protocols or MCP server, right? So this is the tools layer. This is how you start making sense of everything in the knowledge layer, everything in the data lake layer. The last layer is essentially the agents plane. So think of this as the plane where human expertise go ahead and meet AI. Now, this is what then starts empowering the analysts, the defenders, the developers with very domain and very, very job-specific agents that they can actually go ahead and leverage. Now, when we look at these four planes together, the data plane, the knowledge plane, the tools plane, and finally the agents plane, when we look at them together, this is one cohesive platform that we refer to as the security platform from Microsoft. Now, how do you go ahead and leverage this platform on day one where you already have so many applications and you want so many other applications? That is where the concept of the security store comes in, which actually is above all these four layers. This is where you will be able to discover today SaaS solutions, connectors, TI solutions, security agents, professional services, AMDR services, for example, the Lumen TI feed, for example. You will be able to actually discover all of these at the security store. And the way it has been constructed is you can actually have a connector up and running in less than 2 hours. So we moved to this concept of codeless connectors now, as an example. Or you can go ahead and deploy an agent in about 7 minutes or less, and the agent starts working for you. So this is an example where we realize an immense partnership with Lumen and can really, really work in favor of our customers, because at the end of the day, we want to ensure that our customers are secured against the bad guys. This is an example of a Lumen connector that's available today on the store. It goes ahead and creates a massive layer of intelligence which complements what the customers get from the Microsoft TI feed as an example. But without further ado, let me actually call Susmita on stage to really talk about some of these capabilities. Susmita?
Thank you so much, Ankur. And, really excited to come and talk about Lumen and what we have been doing with Microsoft. So excited to sort of talk about the future of security operations with Lumen and Microsoft working together. We have actually two products that we have been working on behind the scenes, and they're now on the secure store. There is the Lumen Defender threat feed. It is a threat intelligence connector into Microsoft Sentinel, as Ankur pointed out. And it is available in public preview on the secure store, available to customers who are using Sentinel and want to get access to high quality network-backed threat feeds to enrich the alerts that SOC analysts see and help to kind of mitigate those alerts sort of in sort of seconds because of the enriched information that we will talk about shortly. We also have announced this week the launch of Lumen Defender managed detection rules, a Lumen Defender AMDR product. And this is a managed security product, managed Sentinel security product from Lumen, where if you have, you're an enterprise and you want to lean into security operations that can be provided by a managed vendor, that's us, and Craig will be talking a lot more about that. It is enriched also by the threat feed that we are going to talk further about shortly. So before we can talk about the threat feed, which is effectively a threat intelligence product that is being brought to you into Sentinel, natively integrated, let's talk a little bit about what is this threat intelligence and where is it coming from. Here at Lumen, for several years, we have an arm of a company called Lumen Black Lotus Labs. And really what they are is that they are the threat research, threat intelligence arm. And where do they get the threat intelligence from? So Lumen, as all of you know, is a vendor that provides the connectivity for the AI based connectivity that goes into data centers, clouds, et cetera. So we are the #1 provider of the internet connectivity for the AI-based economy. And because we are the connectivity provider, we are the telco, we are also the #1 peer network in the world. Let me demystify what that means to some of us who are not from the telco world. What that means is if you have the internet, if you look at the internet as sort of a holistic thing, you can think of it as sort of lots and lots of different highways that are connecting maybe the US or the world. And so Lumen has sort of the most number of internet connectivity, the highway connectivity across the world. And because of the connectivity that we provide, we are able to see all of that rich network data. The net flows, the IPsec, the DNS connections, we're able to see that at a scale that is unparalleled and never sort of is there for other vendors out there. So we coupled with this intelligence and the AI engine that is being used in the back end along with threat researchers, we are able to take the network intelligence and look at that, the threat actors out there, and we are able to bring that into sort of a rich threat intelligence feed. Now, the feed has been there for a long, long time, actually, but they have been private to Lumen. It's been sort of used by Lumen in close partnership with the US public sector as well as governments, and sort of, in discrete ways, we've been using that sort of to help secure the landscape here. But for the first time, we are bringing that excellent rich threat feed for everyone, for every enterprise to use and secure their perimeter as well as secure their SOC operations. So some numbers, the Black Lotus Labs, we track 2 million threats per day. We have monitors that look for 200 billion net flow sessions daily and DNS queries, and we execute over 150 takedowns per month. Many of them are nation state, and we can go to, all of you can go to a Black Lotus Labs blog, which sort of talks about sort of the most recent attacks that we have helped bring down. The visual on the right helps us understand a little bit about how Lumen Black Lotus Labs complements or brings the visibility beyond what other vendors can see. And so if you think about an attacker, the attacker is basically, at sort of in the internet scale, standing up attack infrastructure to be able to, and oftentimes very discreetly, and as Ankur was mentioning, AI powered. So when they're standing up that attack infrastructure, and then they're sort of targeting different sort of attack. You could be a SOC, you could be a cloud workload, you could be an endpoint, or whatever they're trying to attack. Most of the times, threat intelligence that exists out there today, they can see exactly which IP or DNS this attack is coming from, and they have some enrichment associated with those IPs and DNS. It's almost like the front line. They can see the front line. But what they don't see is sort of what is the infrastructure that's powering from behind the front lines. And so that is the visual that's being shown up here is Black Lotus Labs has visibility into sort of the entire attacks infrastructure that's being stood up, much beyond what the front line is capable of demonstrating. So to talk a little bit more, Lumen Defender is the brand that is bringing together all of this rich intelligence to both Lumen's network as well as off-network into the ecosystem. What do I mean by Lumen network? So today, if you are a Lumen customer, you're buying, so you're an enterprise. Most enterprises buy connectivity from Lumen. So if you're one of those enterprises and you're buying connectivity from Lumen, you're also probably buying some security along with it. So we have Lumen Defender, which is a layer. It's actually category defining Lumen Defender Essentials and Plus that is an enforcement layer that is applied and available to you guys to apply at the edge of the network. So even before attacks can come into your network, so your WAFs and firewalls, we have an enforcement layer. It's a category defining enforcement layer that is at the edge. So when you're buying the network and we can see the net flows and the IPs coming in, we have that Black Lotus Labs threat intelligence feeding into the Defender in network, so we can block the attacks before they come into your network, before they come into the enterprise, before they come into your WAFs or your firewalls, et cetera. So we are able to deflect a lot of those attacks, and they are powered by Black Lotus Labs threat intelligence. So that is, we have been seeing amazing amount of adoption on that product, on network, and trusted by a lot of Fortune 500 companies, and proven value to both incident response teams as well as firewall administrators and others, network security teams. So for the first time now, bringing that rich Defender success that we are seeing on network to the ecosystem. And really what we're doing with this partnership is we have built out this connector that Ankur had in the previous slide. So we have built out a threat intelligence connector which once you subscribe to it is bringing that rich feed, and I'll talk a little bit about what rich means here, but brings that rich intelligence right into Sentinel's data lake. So if you are a SOC analyst and you're looking at sort of all of those alerts coming in, we can sort of right there provide you the enrichment so that you don't have to sort of leave that screen, if you may, and go hunt in like a different place on the internet and look for like, tell me more, give me more intelligence. Or even if you're using existing intelligence like from Microsoft as well, you can see how much more enriched this particular feed brings in. And we'll talk a little bit more about that as well. So delivering unique and actionable intelligence. So let's talk a little bit more about like what does that even mean, because it sounds like any average threat intelligence would always say the same thing. So I'm trying to help just demystify what are we saying here about Black Lotus Labs threat intelligence. So we'll go back to what I said earlier. Lumen is the #1 peered network fabric in the world. And because of that, because we provide the global network, we can see the internet traffic like no one else can. And so because of that, and we can now see the attack infrastructure being stood up. So we have Lumen's global internet visibility, and we also partner with a lot of threat intelligence vendors ourselves to make sure that there are pockets of intelligence that we may be missing that is important for us to kind of bring together. So all of this visibility is being powered into sort of our threat research teams, a lot of AI that is used behind the scenes to help deconstruct what we are finding as suspicious stuff that is going on the internet, as opposed to maybe such of regular cool stuff that's also happening, which is all good. So anything that's malicious threat infrastructure is being fed into sort of a threat feed, and we are now able to bring that over to Microsoft Sentinel. Sort of to help us understand a little bit about, well, the standard question I get is, well, we have threat intelligence, right? And I think not all threat intelligence is the same. And I want to explain what we mean by Lumen's Black Lotus Labs threat intelligence. Think about, again, to go back to the analogy of, let's say, the US, right? We have hundreds of thousands of highways in the US. Lumen, because again of its position in the network, we have the eyes on the most number of highways in the US. And because of that, and we can see the traffic that's going on those highways. We can see, when we see the traffic, we can also see, because of the threat research that we do, we can see, oh, those traffic is actually good, they look fine, but we can see some suspicious traffic. And by the way, that traffic out there is associated with known bad actors in the past, and so we can also get that information. So what Black Lotus Labs has is the unique visibility into when attack infrastructure is being stood up for the first time, before the attack is even coming to the enterprise, right? So I take this another parallel. I'm someone bad intentioned. I come into the US, I cross the border, I come into the US, I have bad intent, and I'm like starting to kind of put in the seeds, and I'm starting to take my phone line, I'm trying to start to rent an apartment, I'm calling my friends, I'm sort of starting to construct my game, my bad game, and Lumen's able to see that. And people ask me, well, what do you mean by this? How do you know it's bad? The reason it's bad is because we can see that that infrastructure was actually associated with a so-and-so ransomware campaign. It was used by so-and-so phishing campaign. It was used by so-and-so botnet to launch a DDoS attack. It was associated with so-and-so nation-state actor for so-and-so campaign. So we can see infrastructure being reused all the time, and we can bring these things together, even before the attack was actually stood up on the enterprise. That's the part that we are trying to bring in. And so when we partnered with Microsoft, it was actually not a new partnership. Our threat intelligence teams and Microsoft's threat intelligence teams had been working for several years trying to first bring the network intelligence to complement the endpoint intelligence that Microsoft has, and bringing these two forms of intelligence together so we can bring down these actors. So hopefully that clears. Again, to reinforce what Black Lotus Labs brings to customers. If you say, well, I already have the intelligence, the answer is yes, you do, and the more intelligence is better. Like when you are dealing with very sophisticated attacks, you want to be, as defenders, we need more, and we are not competing with each other. We are actually complementing, bringing these forces so that defenders are well empowered. So we are again able to bring that visibility before the attacks happen. We're able to map the infrastructure to the attack vectors. We bring in rich attack related contextual information that I'll be sharing also. So back to anyone who's saying, well, I got intelligence. I'm like, another analogy to throw here. Think of the endpoint intelligence as sort of the alarms that go off in your home, right? Every home better have some kind of security built in, right? So you're like, hey, I have alarms in my home. I know when someone comes in through the main door or the attic window or my broken wall somewhere. I know it. I'm good. I'm like, yeah, that's good. But think of someone who is like a patrol car, or who's patrolling your neighborhood, or has an aerial view of sort of the entire neighborhood that's telling you, well, few blocks down the road there was something suspicious happened. Watch out. So I want to be informed about that, and so I think that's the part that we want to bring to the table for SOC analysts. Let's go back and talk a little bit about a specific use case. There are many attacks that our teams help bring down every single day and month. But this is an example of Versa Director. Before I get down to the attack itself and how we help demystify this along with many other ecosystem, threat vendors that we have exchanged information with. The net of this is, why is this such a big attack? This was an example of an attack where the attackers are trying to target the US, not just US, but we are worried about US right now. They're targeting US critical infrastructure, right? For when that day comes when, the nation state actor is trying to use tactics to bring down US, should that eventual day come when, we kind of at war or whatever. So this is an attack that is being stood up, that is being ready to stood up for one of those dark days, right? So what did we do? How did this attack happen? So this is actually what Black Lotus Lab actually found was there was a 0-day attack on Versa Networks SD-WAN management appliance, which many of you probably know. It's called the Versa Director. And this was later obviously had a CVE, but when we started tracking it, it was just a 0-day. And the Black Lotus Labs finally, when they ended the investigation, they were able to associate this attack to a Chinese state actor called 𝗦𝗽𝗲𝗂. And I think many of you who followed attacks would probably have heard about this. And really what happened with this is when you have access to these kinds of systems like this, like the Versa Director, you end up attacking so many different customers because you can almost call it like a supply chain attack. The more you can attack at that layer, the more compromised a big section of customers are. So how did Lumen really protect? I think the protection was because Lumen was able to work and identify sort of how the attack progressed from a vanilla, sort of image being sort of, that looked kind of harmless, was being uploaded to a sensitive spot, and we were able to tag team and see, well, actually it's not just a harmless PNG file, it's actually got a lot more sensitivity, is able to execute a web shell within of Versa Director. And so our teams were able to reverse engineer that, and they were able to find that that web shell was connecting with IPs that were previously associated with this Chinese actor. And so we were able to help the law enforcement agencies and Versa, of course, working together with them to help bring down this attack. So with that introduction of what is Black Lotus Labs and what's the intelligence we bring, we are happy to introduce that we have this Lumen Defender threat feed. It's on Microsoft Sentinel in public preview. And what it really provides is it provides a dense set of intelligence, so you can get IP and DNS feeds that are associated with botnets, proxy networks, nation-state actors, threats, malware campaigns, and command and control servers as well. So we are able to bring all of this, and so think of it as once you subscribe from their marketplace, we will start loading up all of those IP and DNS feeds into the Sentinel data lake, and we update it quite often. We update it every 15 minutes, kind of very unheard of in threat intelligence land. The reason we do that is because we want to make sure that the soonest we get to know about the threat infrastructure being stood up, we want to bring that to your SOC console so that you get empowered with that intelligence. We have comprehensive visibility. I want to talk a little bit about it. A lot of threat vendors, you want to ask for threat intelligence, which covers sort of like a lot of your IPv4 network. We have 99%, over 99% of visibility on the IPv4. So that's a good thing. Rapid updates, I just talked about it. We update every 15 minutes, and we bring in very enriched context. That's a very huge value. I'll sort of talk more on this. And it is seamlessly integrated. I'll show a few screens here, but seamlessly integrated right where the SOC analyst is, where they see the alert. We will bring the enrichment right there in the dashboard, in the view for you. And for those of you who say, well, I don't know how much I should pay for this, there's a value dashboard, so we can show you like what value is the threat intelligence bringing to you on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, so you can evaluate how useful this is for you. So this is a screenshot of how the intelligence looks like, sort of just in terms of indicators. This is our indicators of compromise, IOCs. We have over 3 million indicators, 3.6 million indicators. They are obviously, just like any threat intelligence, they are already kind of graded by severe, very high, high, medium, and low kind of severity. So you can decide whether you want only the severe or you want the severe and very high and high. Our recommendation is severe, very high, and high. Should automatically be kind of selected for you, for your SOC analyst to have access to, but mediums and lows are good too. And then you can see how all of these updates have rich context that you can see alongside of each of these IOCs, because I mean, we all know it. I mean, IP addresses are the most cold things. Who knows what those numbers mean anyways, right? No one cares. We bring the meaning to that IP address. So we bring the enrichment. So you can actually say, oh, this is what it means, right? And so I want to kind of show a little bit of a before and after. So if you're a SOC analyst, here's what an average day, and I think Craig's going to do an amazing job talking about how overwhelming their life is. But when you have your feed, your Sentinel showing up all of your thousands and thousands of alerts, let's go back. What are these alerts? Like, most companies have a layered defense already in place. So you have your WAFs and firewalls and endpoint, email security, all of that is already vulnerability. There are many, many layers of security defense that are already fronting the SOC analyst. But say what, we all know that even the best prevention technologies are not able to, sort of fully look into suspicious traffic. And we don't want to block, we don't want, enforcement layers to block suspicious traffic because they can cause business disruption. So that is why suspicious traffic typically in any enterprise, whether it's small, medium, or large, because people want to make sure business can run, normally the threshold is let the suspicious traffic pass. But they get into the logs, and the logs is what then gets ingested into the SIMs, and that's when the SOC analysts start to see the suspicious traffic. See, life is easy when it's a 0 and 1, right? We block something or we allow traffic. That's the easy part. The part is all the 99% of the stuff that goes in the middle, the grayscale. That's amazingly hard, and that's what the SOC analysts are dealing with. So now this is a typical day, and these are not actual screens. I'm just kind of explaining how the information shows up to a SOC analyst. Here's an interesting one. Amanda James, a user using a desktop, and is reaching out to a certain IP address, and the information that the SOC analyst sees is suspicious outbound connection from an internal asset. That's just amazingly intelligent, isn't it? So great. But what if we had the Defender threat feed, and it gave you all of this information? It says, well, it is actually that IP is a C2 command and control beacon, and it is trying to connect to a known botnet infrastructure. It is a threat category of command and control. It is associated to a malware family like SystemBC. It was last seen, the attack infrastructure that this IP was associated with was last updated 2 hours ago. And our confidence is very high that this is a pretty critical IP, and you should do something about it. So this is the kind of information we are bringing to the SOC analyst. And so right there in their panel, they are now able to see. So this is sort of the view that the SOC analyst sees. This is all of the alerts that they are seeing, and the alerts are being enriched on the right-hand side to show you all the rich enrichment that we can bring to the SOC analyst. So when they are fatigued with looking at all of those IPs and DNSs, and by the way, not all alerts are IP and DNSs on the SOC team's panel. So what we do is, the way this product works is quite rich, it's quite intelligent. For any alert that has a network tie, so if it has an IP or DNS, it is Sentinel automatically looks for, in the data lake, it looks for the match of that IP DNS against the threat intel that has been pushed in, and then the enrichment is shown. So, and when you are paying for this service eventually, right now it's promotional free, but the general idea would be, you pay for what you get. Like, you may have, I don't know, hundreds of alerts daily, but only 10% of them are network tied, and we are bringing that value. You pay for what you actually use and what you actually get value from. And our reporting systems will provide that clarity for that. So with that, I think I would like to bring in Craig, who will introduce to us AMDR and all the great stuff. Thank you.
Thank you, Susmita. Awesome job. All right, so what I want to do is basically talk about operationalizing the amazing intelligence that Susmita talked about with the threat feed, as well as a very powerful solution with Sentinel that Ankur talked about earlier. So we are super, super excited about the launch of Lumen Defender AMDR. It is a very unique offering that really brings together the power of Sentinel along with infusing Black Lotus Labs' threat intelligence and then wrapping it around with a SOC service, threat hunting capabilities, and to be able to scale and be very confident with defending against a lot of the newer attacks. So ladies and gentlemen, this solution is truly a force multiplier. Lumen, Microsoft coming together, being able to wrap it with a SOC service. This is this is a step forward for security operations. Let's get a little bit into the details for AMDR. So it's not just about monitoring, right? We want to take in as much of data telemetry across the board. You're talking about firewalls, you're talking about servers, you're talking about cloud infrastructure, bringing that into the environment and then wrapping an incident management framework around it, which looks at utilize machine learning, AI type capabilities, infusing it with Black Lotus Labs threat intelligence to really give you the type of alerts for the SOC analyst to be able to do something with. SOAR capabilities, orchestration capabilities is something that sits on top of it. In today's world, you have thousands and thousands of alerts. There's no way for analysts to keep up with it. That's where SOAR capabilities come in, which sits on top of it. And then finally, a single pane of glass for the customers for reporting and portals to look into. So let's break down this architecture a little bit in the next slide. But I do want to call out something. Almost all companies are very different, right? They have very specific needs. And so our AMDR solution is extremely flexible. Whether you have your own SOC team or you want us or a co-management type infrastructure, we have the ability to do that. Now we help you all the way from designing the overall solution to implementing it, and of course the ongoing management and monitoring of it all in a single package. So it's very tailored to your specific needs and very flexible to be able to grow. So let's talk about the service architecture. I want you to think about this as a pyramid. At the very base of the pyramid, this is where we have all the different telemetry sources that are coming in for ingestion. Ankur talked about it, endpoint data, firewall data, cloud security data, mobile users. We want to collect all of that information in a unified workflow fashion at the very bottom. We then move that up into the Sentinel SIEM, which essentially is running ML and AI analytics to be able to correlate that. And that's where Black Lotus Labs' threat intelligence is infused into that SIEM to be able to provide some context to the analyst. As you move up the stack, that's where the 24/7 global operations, threat hunting services come into play. And then again, talking about the single pane of glass at the very top, that's the customer experience. Single pane of glass to get all of the reporting, all of the alerts, tying into ticketing systems, incident response systems for the customers to be able to manage on their end. So something I didn't mention at the very beginning, but I've spent the last 20 years of my career working in SOC operations, standing up SOC operations. So everything that Ankur talked about previously, that is an absolute challenge. So I want to describe a day in the life of a SOC analyst with this. So typically a SOC analyst will come in, start at the shift, start looking at the various alerts, as Susmita had mentioned earlier. They'll kind of pick up the first alert, whoa, suspicious outbound traffic to a specific destination. In the old traditional world, that's just an IP address out there. Absolutely no context. But because these alerts are enriched with the threat intelligence from the Lumen network, it gives you a lot more context. Now the analyst can see, oh, this is part of some kind of a malware family. And when you think about malware families and C2 servers out there, it's not just a single IP address or a single server out there. It's multiple infrastructures with different type of IP addresses, with different geographic regions, right? So now the analyst has way more context on the malware family name, how long it's been alive for. In these cases, it could be 2 or 3 weeks that these C2 servers have been alive for. So it gives them a lot more context to go back and start investigating for the last 2 or 3 weeks where else in the environment has been communicating to this type of a botnet infrastructure, right? That's the power of the threat intelligence feeds and being able to have that visibility on a global basis across the world. So from a response perspective, what does the analyst do? He has all this information. He's able to take some action. Go ahead and block the specific machine. Go ahead and start looking through the Sentinel platform, which other IPs or internal assets have been communicating with these C2 servers and botnet infrastructures, and start to take them offline if there has been any kind of transmissions. And then finally, they can actually put some firewall rules to block this at the very edge of the network so that it doesn't cause any more issues going forward. So this is the power of SOC operations. A lot of times, organizations try to stand it up themselves. It's not very cost effective. The type of expertise needed is a lot. Just to stand up a 24/7 operations, you need at least about 12 people, certified, trained, the infrastructure behind it. And you got to make it scalable, right? So again, just allows us to understand the value of SOC services and why you need a provider to rapidly deploy your security solutions as well as monitor them. And finally, to wrap it up, just to kind of tie all the three pieces together, right? You've heard about the expanse and the peer of the Lumen network infrastructure that gives us the greatest visibility across the globe from a threat intel perspective. We have a very powerful solution with Microsoft Sentinel, and we're integrated as part of it to be able to enrich the SOC alerts and analytics. And all of these solutions are currently available on the Microsoft Security Store as well as the Marketplace. And finally, to learn more about these solutions, a little bit more detail, please visit our booth. We're at 1927, and I would love if you could please scan this QR code and get in touch with us so we can have more of a conversation and you can learn more about what these solutions have to offer. So thank you very much for your attention, and we look forward to chatting with you.